The sleek hull of the Terran diplomatic vessel Artemis glided through the velvety black expanse of space, approaching the luminescent orb of the Galactic Council's starbase. Inside, General Ada Mwangi paced before the expansive viewport, her gaze fixed on the distant shimmering lights. Around her, aides and advisors murmured over datapads, refining speeches and reviewing galactic law. Despite their busy preparations, a solemn silence underpinned their actions, the gravity of their mission weighing heavily on each soul. General Mwangi, clad in her pristine but unassuming uniform, was not just a military leader, she was a symbol of Earth's resilience and determination. The recent attack on their planet had left deep scars, not only on the land but in the hearts of its inhabitants. Yet, here she was, millions of miles from home, about to demand justice from those who viewed humans as mere pawns in cosmic games of power. As Artemis docked with the Council's starbase, a hub of interstellar diplomacy and intrigue, Mwangi gathered her team for one last briefing. "This isn't just about retribution or exposing the Gorvax," she began, her voice firm yet tinged with emotion. "This is about asserting our place in the galaxy, proving that Earth may be new to this council, but we are not naive. We are not weak." She looked over to her chief diplomat, Liam Park, a young but brilliant strategist known for his persuasive eloquence. "Liam, ensure our allies are ready to stand with us. We'll need their support if things go south." Liam nodded, his expression one of grim determination, as he left to secure last-minute alliances. Turning to her technical advisor, Dr. Sylvia Torres, Mwangi discussed the holographic evidence they planned to present. "The impact images need to be irrefutable, Sylvia. They have to see Earth as we saw it, as we lived it, not just as data points on a recon scan." Dr. Torres, adjusting her glasses, assured her, "The visuals are compelling, Ada. They'll see the beauty that was, the devastation that is. It's all there." As the final preparations were made, Mwangi retreated to her private quarters. The walls adorned with images of Earth's mountains, oceans, and cities, now partly ruined reminders of what was at stake. She donned her ceremonial sash, each thread a reminder of Earth's diverse cultures, each color a testament to the planet's once vibrant life. Stepping up to the mirror, Mwangi practiced her opening line, the one she had repeated 100 times in her mind. "You attacked our home." She let each word resonate in the silent room, steeling herself for the monumental task ahead. With a deep breath, she left her quarters, heading towards the assembly hall. As the doors of the diplomatic vessel opened, a rush of alien scents and the low hum of the starbase artificial atmosphere greeted her. The council awaited, a congregation of the galaxy's mightiest and most cunning, all under one roof. Today, they would listen to Earth's voice, strong and unyielding, as General Ada Mwangi stepped into the political arena, ready to confront the galaxy with the truth of what had been lost, and what they must fight to protect. The vast assembly hall of the Galactic Council was a masterpiece of alien architecture, with sweeping arcs and a domed ceiling that glowed with the light of distant stars. The space was designed to accommodate the varied physiologies of its members, with floating platforms for the aviolans, who preferred to perch, and submerged tanks for the aquatic Selenians. The hall buzzed with a cacophony of sounds, from the chirps of the aviolans to Selenians, each sound a testament to the diverse life forms represented in the council. General Ada Mwangi stood at the designated human platform, her eyes sweeping across the assembly. Hundreds of species, each with their own agendas and histories, filled the room. To her left, the towering, rock-like form of a Durnak diplomat rumbled softly as it communicated through vibrations. To her right, a group of lithe, shimmering Zephyrians conversed in a flurry of light pulses, their bodies reflecting the ambient light of the hall in dazzling patterns. The council was presided over by President Delos, a member of the enigmatic and wise Oloran species, known for their impartiality. Delos floated above the council on a transparent disk, his serene face betraying none of the thoughts behind his ageless eyes. As the room settled, his voice, both melodic and commanding, filled the hall. "Esteemed delegates," he began, his tone welcoming yet firm, "today we are here to address a grievance of grave importance, a charge brought forth by our newest member, Earth, against the Gorvax coalition. This is a matter not only of territorial dispute but of survival and cultural integrity. Murmurs filled the room as the LOS continued, outlining the procedural norms for the session. Each representative was to be given a chance to speak, ensuring a fair and comprehensive deliberation. The importance of this meeting was not lost on anyone. It was a precedent-setting moment, the first time a newly admitted species had brought forth such a serious accusation. General Mwangi took a deep breath, steadying herself as she prepared to address the assembly. When her turn came, she stepped forward. The hall fell silent, hundreds of eyes, and many more sensory organs, turning to focus on her. "You attacked our home," she stated clearly, her voice amplified to reach every corner of the vast hall. She paused to let her words resonate, observing the reactions of various diplomats. This unprovoked attack on Earth resulted in immense loss. Loss of life, loss of potential, and loss of trust. We come before you today to seek justice and to propose measures that ensure no other member species suffers as we have. As Mwangi spoke, holographic images of Earth, both before and after the attack, began to materialize above the council floor. Lush green forests contrasted with charred landscapes. Vibrant cities now lay in ruins. Oceans teeming with life were shown alongside those choked with debris. The response from the assembly was a mix of shock, sympathy, and in some cases, skepticism. Some members whispered amongst themselves, visibly moved by the human plight, while others, like the Gorvax delegation, remained stoically silent, their expression unreadable. After presenting her opening remarks and the visual evidence, Mwangi concluded with a call for solidarity. What we ask for is not merely retribution but a commitment from this council to uphold justice and protect all members from such atrocities. As she stepped back, her heart pounded with the gravity of her words. The debate that would follow was certain to shape not just the future of Earth, but the principles of interstellar justice and peace. General Ada Mwangi's words hung heavy in the air of the Galactic Council's assembly hall as she took her seat. The images of Earth's devastation still shimmered above the council floor, slowly fading out to be replaced by the stern face of High Warlord Krex, the leader of the Gorvax coalition. His massive, chitinous form rose, towering above most in the hall, reflecting the formidable nature of his species, a race known both for their martial prowess and strategic acumen. The Gorvax, with their thick armor and glaring red eyes, were an imposing sight. Krex's voice, when he spoke, was a deep rumble, felt as much as heard, resonating through the hall. "The Terran accusation," he began, his tone as hard as the exoskeleton that encased him, while tragic, is misguided. The Gorvax coalition operates within the rights granted by interstellar law. The Terran system, unclaimed and strategically situated, was a legitimate target for expansion. A series of murmurs swept through the assembly as Krex continued. "We recognize the loss of life and extend our sympathies. However, we must also consider the broader context of galactic stability. The Gorvax coalition has always sought to ensure the security of space through proactive measures. If we are to be penalized for defending potential threats, it would set a dangerous precedent." Krex then shifted his stance, his voice adopting a more conciliatory tone. "Let us not forget, the Galactic Council was established to mediate such disputes. We are prepared to discuss reparations and aid to the Terran system, acknowledging the suffering inflicted. Yet, we stand firm against accusations of genocide and demand that our actions be seen in the light of galactic security." The room was charged with a palpable tension as Krex proposed an alternative narrative to the Council. His words were carefully chosen, designed to sway the neutral parties and reassure his allies. As Krex concluded, he offered, "The Gorvax coalition recommends the formation of a neutral investigation committee to assess both the necessity and the conduct of the operation against Earth. This will ensure that all facts are considered and that justice is served in a manner befitting this council's high standards." The suggestion of an investigation was a tactical move, potentially delaying any immediate sanctions and allowing the Gorvax to demonstrate transparency without admitting fault. It was a classic Gorvax strategy: maneuver, negotiate, and control the narrative. The delegates began to buzz with conversation, weighing the Gorvax's words against the emotional plea of the humans. Some were swayed by the notion of security Krex painted, Others were skeptical of the motives behind his proposal for an investigation. General Mwangi watched Krex return to his seat, her mind racing through possible responses. The council was deeply divided, and every word she and Krex spoke tilted the scales of galactic opinion. As the debate opened to the floor, Mwangi prepared to reassert Earth's position, knowing that the battle for justice was just beginning, played out in the arena of galactic diplomacy as much as it had been in the ravaged forests and cities of her home planet. As the debate swung open to the council floor, General Ada Mwangi gathered her composure, ready to reinforce Earth's position. The chamber was charged with energy, a mix of anticipation and tension hovering in the air as different species prepared to voice their opinions. Before she could stand, a representative from the Icarii Confederation, a collective of aquatic species known for their emphasis on ecological preservation, rose. Their spokesperson, Ambassador Green, shimmered with the bioluminescent glow characteristic of her species. She spoke in a melodic voice that rippled through the water of her containment suit, which translated seamlessly into the council's auditory system. The tragic images presented by Earth are not merely a local issue but a galactic concern, Green emphasized, her tone imbued with both sorrow and urgency. The destruction of a planet's ecology for strategic gain threatens all life forms and contradicts the principles this council was founded upon. We, the Icarii, stand with Earth in seeking justice and a restoration of their world. Her words sparked nods and murmurs of agreement from many of the environmentally conscious species present. The council's focus shifted back to General Mwangi, who seized the opportunity to build on the momentum. Standing again, she addressed the assembly, her voice steady and commanding. "Thank you, Ambassador Green, for your solidarity. The Gorvax coalition suggests this attack was a strategic necessity, cloaked in the language of galactic security. But let us be clear, what happened to Earth was neither necessary nor just. It was a violation of universal rights, a disregard for sentient life." General Mwangi then introduced a new element to her argument. "Furthermore," she continued, motioning to the holographic projector, which flickered to life once more. This time, it displayed intercepted communications between high-ranking Gorvax officials, revealing discussions of Earth's rich resources and strategic location, with scant mention of any genuine threat posed by Earth to the galaxy. "The evidence speaks for itself," Mwangi declared, as the translated transcripts floated above the council members, each line highlighting the disparity between public Gorvax statements and their private intentions. This was a premeditated act driven by greed and opportunism, wrapped in the guise of preemptive defense. A heavy silence followed her presentation. Even some of the Gorvax's traditional allies appeared uncomfortable, their confidence shaken by the stark contrast between the public and private discourses. Sensing the shift, Mwangi pushed forward. "We ask not only for reparations but also for measures to prevent such acts in the future. Earth proposes the establishment of a council-sanctioned regulatory body to oversee actions that could lead to similar devastations, ensuring that all member species are held to the same standard of accountability." The proposal was bold, aiming to reshape part of the Galactic Council's foundational policies. It challenged the status quo, suggesting a shift towards a more proactive and preventive governance model. As Mwangi concluded, the representatives of the Krillian Consortium, a group known for their mediating skills, signaled their interest to speak. The evidence presented and the proposal by Earth merits serious consideration. The Krillian spokesperson began, their voice a soothing balm in the heated atmosphere. "We advocate for a period of reflection and urge all members to consider the long-term implications of this debate on the fabric of our galactic society." With the council now abuzz with discussions, General Mwangi returned to her seat, her mind racing through the next steps. She had laid out Earth's case with both passion and precision, but the road to justice was long, and the day's debate was far from over. The atmosphere in the assembly hall had shifted significantly following General Mwangi's revealing of the Gorvax communications. Delegates whispered among themselves, and even as the session was temporarily adjourned for a recess, groups formed in clusters, debating the implications of what they had just heard. During the break, a figure approached General Mwangi. It was Sylphie, a representative of the Ilarians, a species esteemed within the Galactic Council for their ethical standards and dedication to peace. Their skin shimmered with a soft light, reflecting their mood and thoughts. Today, it radiated a calming blue, signifying deep concern and thoughtfulness. General Mwangi, Sylphie began, their voice even and composed. The Ilarians have been moved by Earth's plight and disturbed by the revelations regarding the Gorvax. We believe this situation presents an opportunity to address a broader issue within our council structure, the lack of a clear, enforceable framework for conflict resolution and protection of sovereign rights. Mwangi nodded, acknowledging the gravity of Sylphie's words. I appreciate your support, Sylphie. It's clear that the Council's current mechanisms are inadequate for preventing such tragedies. Sylphie agreed, exactly, General. In response, the Ilarians proposed the formation of a new council body dedicated to the peaceful resolution of disputes and the enforcement of council laws, essentially, a judicial branch of the Galactic Council. This body would not only address your current grievance but also serve as a deterrent against future aggressions. General Mwangi considered the proposal thoughtfully. Establishing such a body could indeed change the dynamics of power within the Council, providing smaller or less militarily inclined species with a means to protect their interests legally rather than through force or political maneuvering. When the session reconvened, Sylphie took the floor, and the murmur of the hall subsided into an attentive silence. Esteemed colleagues, Sylphie addressed the Council, their voice resonating clearly across the chamber. The case of Earth is a stark reminder of our vulnerabilities and the imperfections in our Council's ability to preemptively resolve conflicts. To address this, the Ilarians proposed the establishment of the Galactic Judicial Authority, a body that would have the power to adjudicate disputes, oversee compliance with Council decisions, and ensure that the rights of all member species are upheld. The proposal was met with mixed reactions. Some delegates nodded in agreement, seeing the potential for a more balanced and just council. Others, particularly those from more dominant or aggressive species, exchanged wary glances, concerned about the implications of such a power on their own sovereignty and freedom of action. Kreks of the Gorvax, sensing a threat to their influence, stood to respond. While we acknowledge the good intentions behind this proposal, we must caution against haste in establishing such an authority. We must consider the complexities of enforcement and the potential for overreach. How would this authority be governed? Who appoints its members? How do we ensure it does not favor certain species or political alliances over others? The debate that followed was intense, with each species bringing their perspectives and concerns to the fore. As arguments were presented and countered, it became clear that the proposal would not be easily resolved in a single session. General Mwangi, witnessing the unfolding debate, felt a glimmer of hope. Despite the challenges and resistance, the conversation had begun. The idea of a judicial authority, once planted, could potentially grow to redefine the Galactic Council's approach to peace and justice. As the Council adjourned for the day, the discussions continued in smaller groups and diplomatic enclaves. Mwangi and her team, alongside Sylphie and other allies, began to strategize on how to gather support for the Ilarian proposal, knowing that the path ahead would require patience, diplomacy, and unwavering resolve. As the discussions surrounding the Ilarian proposal for a Galactic Judicial Authority, GJ, carried on outside the Assembly Hall, General Mwangi and her team found themselves at the heart of a series of strategic meetings. They convened with representatives from various species, each session a delicate dance of diplomacy aimed at building a coalition strong enough to transform the proposal into reality. Inside a reserved meeting room with views overlooking the starbase central atrium, Mwangi met with Ambassador Loreen of the Icarii Confederation and several other key allies who had voiced support for the judicial authority. The walls of the room were lined with holographic displays, showing dynamic maps of the galaxy, marked with the territories of different council members and their political alignments. A judicial body like the GJA could fundamentally change how we resolve conflicts, Mwangi started, laying out her vision. It would not only arbitrate disputes but also enforce council mandates and oversee reparations, like those necessary for Earth. Loreen, her bioluminescence flickering with thoughtful patterns, added, the environmental impact assessments and restoration protocols could also fall under its purview. This would ensure that ecological considerations are upheld across the galaxy. As the meeting progressed, Mwangi's team used a transparent holoboard to sketch out a proposed structure for the GJA. They envisioned it as a panel comprising representatives from various species, each elected by the council but required to operate independently of their home governments. This was a critical element, intended to prevent any bias or undue influence. We must also consider the enforcement mechanism, suggested a delegate from the Zephyrians, a species known for their advanced legal minds. Without the power to enforce its rulings, the GJA will be nothing more than an advisory body. The discussion then turned to the thorny issue of jurisdiction. How would the GJA interact with local legal systems? What powers would it have to intervene in internal matters? These questions were complex, touching on sovereignty and the balance of power within the council. The debate was rigorous and often contentious. Some feared the potential for overreach, while others argued that a strong central authority was necessary to prevent future conflicts and ensure fairness. Mwangi listened, mediated, and gradually steered the conversation towards consensus. After hours of negotiation, the coalition agreed on a draft charter for the GJA. It outlined the authority's role, structure, and powers, with checks and balances designed to reassure those worried about potential abuses. The draft would need to be presented to the full council, a prospect that brought both anticipation and anxiety. As the meeting adjourned, Mwangi and her advisors prepared to take their campaign public. They organized forums and information sessions across the starbase, aiming to educate and rally support among the council's lower-tier members, who might not have a voice as loud as the major powers but whose collective support was crucial. Back in her quarters, Mwangi reflected on the progress made. She stared out at the starlit expanse, thinking of Earth, its blue oceans, its green forests. The memory of her planet, both as it was and as it could be again, strengthened her resolve. "This is for you," she whispered into the void, a silent promise to bring justice not just to Earth but to any world threatened by the chaos of unchecked power. With the next council session approaching, Mwangi knew that the real test was yet to come. Convincing the entire assembly to approve the GJ would require all her diplomatic skill and resolve. But tonight, she allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. Tomorrow, the battle would continue. In the days leading up to the next Galactic Council session, General Ada Mwangi and her team engaged in a whirlwind of diplomatic activities. The corridors of the starbase buzzed with representatives from different planets and systems, each a potential ally or adversary in the debate over the proposed Galactic Judicial Authority, GJA. General Mwangi's strategy centered on gaining broad-based support, and she spent her days navigating the complex web of interstellar politics. With the help of Ambassador Loreen and other early supporters, they reached out to various factions, emphasizing how the GJA would benefit the galactic community by providing a fair and effective mechanism to resolve disputes and enforce peace. One of the most challenging tasks was addressing the concerns of species that were wary of losing sovereign control or those who feared the GJA might be dominated by more powerful planets. Mwangi and her team organized roundtable discussions, inviting experts in galactic law and representatives of smaller, often marginalized communities to voice their concerns. In one such meeting, a representative from the Trinali Federation, a loose alliance of border planets, expressed his apprehensions. "We understand the need for a judicial body, but how do we ensure it doesn't become a tool for the powerful to legitimize their actions against the weaker members?" he asked, his voice tinged with skepticism. Mwangi responded with a calm assurance, outlining the checks and balances incorporated into the GJA's charter. Each member of the GJA will be elected by a democratic vote of all council members, and no single species can hold consecutive terms. Furthermore, independent audits and transparency reports will be mandatory. Aware of the power of public opinion, Mwangi's team also launched a media campaign across the council's communication networks. They distributed holographic presentations that detailed case studies of historical conflicts within the council and how they could have been mitigated or resolved by a body like the GJA. These presentations were tailored to different species, highlighting specific benefits relevant to their unique circumstances. Meanwhile, the Gorvax coalition, led by High Warlord Krex, were not idle. They too were rallying their allies, emphasizing the risks of external interference in internal affairs. Krex hosted a series of high-profile security briefings, where he portrayed the GJA as a potential threat to the autonomy of stronger, independent species. The creation of such an authority could be the first step towards a centralized power structure that might one day challenge our sovereignty, Krex argued in a closed session attended by military leaders from various allied species. As the day of the vote approached, the starbase was rife with rumors and speculations. Deals were made in quiet corners, and the corridors echoed with the languages of 100 planets, each discussing the potential outcomes of the Council's decision. In her private quarters, Mwangi reviewed the latest reports from her advisors. The vote would be close. Every single delegate's decision would count. She knew the importance of the final speeches that would precede the vote. They had to be compelling and powerful, enough to sway the undecided and reassure the wavering. General Mwangi prepared herself for what might be one of the most significant days of her career. As she looked out at the stars, she reminded herself why she was fighting this battle. Not for power, not for revenge, but for a chance at a just universe where no planet would suffer as Earth did. With a deep breath, she steeled herself for the day ahead, ready to stand once again before the Council, her resolve unshaken. The day of the vote had arrived, and the atmosphere in the Galactic Council's assembly hall was thick with tension and anticipation. Delegates from hundreds of planets filled the chamber, their conversations a low murmur beneath the high dome. General Ada Mwangi, standing amidst her team, scanned the room, assessing the body language and expressions of various representatives. Each gesture, each whispered consultation added to her mental tally of likely supporters and opponents. As the session was called to order, President Delos floated to his elevated position, signaling for silence. His calm demeanor brought a momentary peace to the bustling hall. Ladies, gentlemen, and esteemed beings, Delos began, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. Today we stand at a crossroads in the history of our Galactic Council. We vote not merely on a proposal but on the future path our civilization will choose, whether we will embrace a system of justice and accountability or continue to rely solely on diplomacy and individual enforcement. General Mwangi was the first to speak. She approached the podium with a steady gait, her presence commanding attention. She looked out over the assembly, her eyes meeting those of allies and adversaries alike. Esteemed delegates, Mwangi began, her voice clear and resonant. The establishment of the Galactic Judicial Authority represents our collective commitment to a higher standard of justice. This isn't about diminishing our sovereignty, it's about enhancing our mutual protection against aggression and injustice. It's about ensuring that no world, no matter how small or newly admitted, ever feels threatened or alone against more powerful forces. As she spoke, visuals of Earth's devastated landscapes and simulations of potential future conflicts that could be avoided by the GJA played behind her. She concluded with a personal appeal, her tone imbued with sincere passion. Let us choose a path of unity and justice. Let us build a future where peace is preserved not by the might of arms but by the strength of our laws. Following Mwangi, several other delegates took turns at the podium. Supporters echoed her sentiments, emphasizing the benefits of the GJA, while opponents, led by High Warlord Krex, reiterated their concerns about potential overreach and loss of autonomy. Krex's powerful voice filled the hall. While we recognize the noble intentions behind the GJ, we must also consider the potential for misuse. Who ensures that the GJ itself remains impartial? Who guards the guardians? The debate grew heated, with each side presenting compelling arguments. As the last of the speeches wound down, President Delos called for the vote. The tension was palpable as delegates cast their votes electronically, the results instantly tallied and displayed on the large screen overhead. Silence fell over the chamber as the final votes were counted. The display flickered momentarily before stabilizing to show the outcome. The proposal had passed, but by a narrow margin. A collective breath was released, and reactions around the room varied from jubilant to resigned. General Mwangi felt a profound sense of relief mixed with responsibility. She had won this battle, but the journey to implement the GJ would be another challenge altogether. As the assembly adjourned, delegates clustered around Mwangi, offering congratulations and discussing next steps. Plans were made to convene a drafting committee for the GJA's operational framework, with Mwangi nominated as one of its key members. Returning to her quarters, Mwangi looked out at the star-filled sky, contemplating the new order they had just created. She knew the road ahead would be fraught with difficulties and resistance, but she also knew that today they had taken a monumental step towards a more just and equitable galaxy. Her commitment was stronger than ever. This was her legacy, not just for Earth, but for all civilizations seeking justice under the stars. In the weeks following the historic vote, the establishment of the Galactic Judicial Authority, GJ, became the focal point of interstellar discourse. As one of the key members of the drafting committee, General Ada Mwangi found herself at the center of complex negotiations and planning sessions, all aimed at turning the concept of the GJA into a functioning reality. The committee consisted of representatives from various factions within the council, including those who had opposed the GJA's formation. Their inclusion was a strategic decision designed to foster a sense of ownership and cooperation across the council. General Mwangi, understanding the importance of unity, worked diligently to bridge the divides. The first task was to define the jurisdiction and procedures of the GJA. This involved intense legal and ethical discussions, as the authority needed to balance the enforcement of galactic laws with respect for planetary sovereignty. Mwangi advocated for a structure that emphasized transparency and accountability, ensuring that the GJA could not become a tool of oppression. They decided on a multi-tiered judicial system, with lower courts handling less severe disputes and an upper court for significant conflicts and appeals. Each court would have a diverse panel of judges, chosen not by political influence but through a rigorous, merit-based selection process overseen by a council of ethics. One of the major challenges was setting up the enforcement mechanism for the GJA's rulings. The solution came through the establishment of a neutral enforcement body, staffed by a multi-species marshal service. This force would act under the strict guidelines set by the GJA, with clear limitations to prevent any misuse of power. Another issue was the integration of existing planetary legal systems with the GJA. Many systems were reluctant to cede any judicial authority to a higher power. Mwangi and the committee spent countless hours in negotiations, assuring leaders that the GJA would only intervene in cases that involved interstellar law or conflicts between planets. To garner widespread support, Mwangi launched an extensive public relations campaign aimed at educating the galaxy's populace about the benefits of the GJA. This included virtual town hall meetings, educational programs, and interactive seminars that allowed citizens to ask questions and express their concerns. The campaign was designed to demystify the GJA's operations and emphasize its role in protecting the rights and safety of all planetary populations. Feedback from these sessions was overwhelmingly positive, helping to ease much of the skepticism surrounding the authority. After months of preparation, the GJA was finally ready to commence operations. The opening session was a galactic event, broadcast across multiple media platforms. General Mwangi, chosen to preside over the first session due to her pivotal role in the GJA's creation, opened the proceedings with a speech that highlighted the journey they had all undertaken to reach this point. "Today, we begin a new chapter in our shared history," Mwangi announced, her voice steady and hopeful. "The Galactic Judicial Authority is not just a tribunal, it is a promise of fair treatment, of justice, and of peace. Let us honor this promise by upholding the values we cherish as a united galaxy." The first case brought before the GJA involved a trade dispute between two neighboring planets, which had previously escalated to dangerous levels. The handling of this case would be the GJA's first test in real-world application. As the proceedings unfolded, it was clear that the GJA was functioning as intended. The judges were impartial, the debate was respectful, and the enforcement was ready but restrained. Watching the success of the first session, Mwangi felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The road had been long and fraught with challenges, but they had achieved something that would hopefully ensure the stability and justice of the galaxy for generations to come. The success of the Galactic Judicial Authority's GJ inaugural session marked a significant milestone in the history of the Galactic Council. Over the following months, the GJA handled several high-profile cases, ranging from territorial disputes to violations of interstellar trade agreements. With each case, the GJA not only resolved conflicts but also strengthened the legal framework that supported peaceful coexistence among the myriad species of the galaxy. General Ada Mwangi, having played a pivotal role in the establishment and early operations of the GJA, began to see the fruits of her labor. She was often invited to speak at various planetary assemblies and academic institutions, where she shared her vision of a just and united galaxy. A critical test of the GJA's effectiveness came when a long-standing conflict in the Viridian sector, involving 3 different planetary systems, escalated. The dispute concerned access to a series of asteroid belts rich in rare minerals. Previous attempts at mediation had failed, leading to minor skirmishes and a growing threat of war. The GJA intervened, summoning representatives from the involved planets to a mediation session. Under the watchful eyes of the galaxy, General Mwangi chaired the proceedings, her experience as a military strategist and diplomat lending her a unique perspective on conflict resolution. The mediation was tough, with deep-seated mistrust and historical grievances surfacing. However, through persistent dialogue and the innovative use of real-time simulations showing the devastating consequences of a full-scale conflict, the parties gradually moved towards a compromise. After intense negotiations, a treaty was signed, granting shared access to the asteroid belts, with a detailed plan for equitable distribution of resources and joint oversight by the GJA. The resolution of this conflict not only averted a war but also served as a powerful example of what could be achieved through legal arbitration and peaceful negotiation. In the tranquility of her office, overlooking the bustling hub of the starbase, General Mwangi took a moment to reflect on the journey. The walls of her office were adorned with images of Earth, her beautiful, resilient Earth, reminding her of why she had fought so hard. She thought about the early days of her mission, fraught with opposition and skepticism. Now, the GJA was not just a functioning body but a beacon of hope and a testament to what could be accomplished when diverse species work together towards a common goal. With the GJA now established, Mwangi decided to focus on her next mission, ensuring that Earth fully recovered from its wounds and regained its place as a vibrant member of the galactic community. She started the Earth Legacy Foundation, aimed at ecological restoration and cultural preservation, funded by reparations from the Gorvax Coalition as part of the GJA's rulings. Additionally, Mwangi became a prominent advocate for further integrating emerging civilizations into the Galactic Council. She pushed for programs that provided these planets with the support they needed to participate fully in galactic affairs, ensuring that no other world would have to endure what Earth had. As she prepared for a keynote speech at the annual Galactic Unity Forum, General Mwangi felt a deep sense of satisfaction and hope. The galaxy was far from perfect, and the challenges they faced were enormous, but they had made significant progress. Her final thoughts before stepping onto the stage were of Earth, her home, now slowly blossoming again under the care of the Earth Legacy Foundation. She smiled, knowing that her planet's story, a tale of resilience and rebirth, was now forever woven into the fabric of the galaxy, inspiring others to believe in the power of unity and justice.